Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Justin Fry. I'll be running the webinar along with Scott Mayster from Tick Data. Some housekeeping issues before we start the webinar. We'll be asking some polls during the course of the event. Please do answer and interact with us. We'd love to know more about your background and anything else we can do to help. If you have any technical problems with the webinar, please use the chat Q&A button in the middle of the Zoom interface to let me know, and we'll do our best to resolve any of those issues. So let me introduce you to Scott Mayster. He's the Global Product Manager for Tick Data. He joined Tick Data in March 1999, so he's a very long tenure with the company and stayed with the company when it was transitioned into One Market Data in 2015. Scott's been working in trading for a very long time and has a great depth of knowledge around market data, which you'll see during the course of the webinar. At this point, I'll hand this over to Scott. We'll do some polls. Over to you, Scott.
Thanks, Justin, and thanks to everyone for joining today. Very happy to be here to talk about Tick Data and our product offering. But first, let's talk a little bit about our parent company, One Market Data. One Market Data has been in business for about 18 years, and Tick Data is one of two main brands that make up One Market Data, the other being OneTick. OneTick is the database and analytics platform, very popular and well-known in the industry. Also offers a number of solutions, including surveillance, TCA, backtesting, that are built upon the OneTick database platform. It was about 8 years ago that Tick Data was acquired, and Tick Data is data side of the business, historical and reference data, the content. So to dig a little deeper into our capabilities as a company, if you consider the data business on the left side in blue, that would be providing just the data from a global exchanges, trades, quotes, market depth, historical, and daily data, as you'd expect. As we start applying our analytics to the data, we can offer enhanced data where data has been normalized. You build bars, you calculate VWAP, TWAP, and aggregate data sets into even more useful streams of data that can be analyzed. And then on the right is our complete database and analytics capabilities, deploying OneTick for full analytics solutions and real-time capabilities, including marrying historical and real-time data. If you were, say, doing real-time optimization of trading models, you can have real-time data streaming in and connected to historical data that's already in the database. Today, we're here to talk specifically about Tick Data. We started in 1984, Colorado. It was two brothers, a futures broker and a programmer. The futures broker had seen in his clients that more traders were starting, especially in futures, to use computers to build trading models and to execute them. I think many of us who were around back then remember TradeStation was kind of that first off-the-shelf product that gave a programming language that was specific to the markets and to trading and allowed you to build these trading models and execute them in real time. So the brothers thought that they could make a business of collecting the data off of real-time feeds to be used for this backtesting. You can imagine the computing power in 1984 using 286s to collect this data, to put it in off of a FM data feed or however they got it. I actually saw a large number of big reel tapes from the exchanges where they got the data back in those days, and actually processing this data into files that were compressed enough to be sent on floppy disks and provided over a modem for updates. So they had a lot to work with, but they were pretty ingenuitive. Tick Data was the first company to make historical intraday data commercially available. Over time, our offering expanded to include global futures, global equities, spot forex, options, crypto, and other asset classes. And as I mentioned, in 2015, about 8 years ago, we were acquired by One Market Data, who already, having a very well-known name in the industry, was looking for content for the database and analytics platform.
Thanks so much, Scott. Good introduction. We'll do a quick poll just to ask what's your sort of relationship with Tick Data. Are you a previous customer? Are you a current subscriber? Are you a non-customer user of historical data? Are you, in fact, in the market or soon to be in the market for historical data? Or are you just having a look around today? So thank you so much for letting us know. Still got a few results coming in here. So Scott, most people here, over 50% are just looking. We've got a couple of customers, some current subscribers, a couple of people looking for historical data, and one person in the market or soon to be.
We consider anybody who's ever licensed data from us who's not currently getting data, but even though a one-off customer from years ago, to still be a customer of ours. So
one more poll. just so Scott and sort of understand who he's speaking to today. So what sort of organization do you represent? Hedge fund, asset manager, family office, prop shop, bank, on the sell side, broker, academic, regulator, vendor, or other. We thought as many different options as we could here. Okay, Scott. So and nearly everyone has so we've got a few vendors, prop shop, family office, hedge fund, some academics. So a pretty reasonable split.
Thanks very much. And that's pretty indicative. I'll talk a bit more about who uses tick data and why here, but that's a very good cross section there. Thanks for that. Let's talk a bit about how historical data is used in general and by whom. So the most common use of the data in our experience is for building, optimizing, and testing trading models. So this is pre-trade analysis before trades made. What am I trading and when? In addition, post-trade analysis and building trading algorithms, where to trade and what venues offer the best executions has become a very common use of the data. That's probably more regulatory driven than anything else, although driven also by necessity, but Reg NMS and MiFID certainly contributing a lot to that. And this has also led to internal controls being necessary and very common. TCA and surveillance or other uses. As I had mentioned, OneTick offers solutions for TCA and surveillance that are very, very robust. But for those who are doing it on their own, they need data. And so they will just license the data for that. Academic research is also very popular. We have seen, talked to many people, but just in general, anybody working on research papers, theses, professors at universities and think tanks, they need data, they need quality data. So they're a big user of data. And then independent consultants who are doing bespoke research projects on behalf of companies, additional types of research. They are also big users of the data, quite a few of those. Legal, finally, data used as evidence in business and financial industry litigation. So if you are a user of historical data, why would you choose tick data? We have a few thoughts on that. And hopefully our clients agree with us. First off, it all starts with the data. So research quality data is number one. We do not collect data off of live feeds. We only source the data from top tier data providers and exchanges who are capable of collecting that data in geographically diverse ticker plants on their own or co-located, and then can provide us with files at the end of the day. And we'll download those files and as a whole and not stream the data so that we do not have problems with transmission errors, drop packets, things that could just add another source of error to the data. Then we perform our extensive nightly validation process, and that is programmatic and also visual for some markets. Data quality control is a big part of our overnight process. But even then, we have a long history and we've had thousands of customers using this data and providing feedback. And we have a very good relationship with our customers, which leads to number two, our support. No data set of this size is perfect. And anybody who tells you that it is not telling you the truth. We would never tell our clients that our data is perfect because it's not. So when we do find problems, when our customers find problems because they really combed through the data more than any of our validation processes ever could, then we do everything we can to fix the data. And when I talk about thousands of customers using this data, that's what I mean. I mean that it's been combed through very closely. And so all of our future customers benefit from the efforts, the use of the data in the past and our efforts to clean it. And then our support team also has access to our engineering team and our data team to deal with any of these problems. Or in many cases, to be honest, there's not really a problem with the data, but something does look different. Perhaps there's a hole in a particular day for some period of time. And it turns out that there was a weather event or there was some reason why why the trading was halted purposely. Those have happened many times over the years, and we have notes in our system, and our head of market data quality control has been with us for a long time as well, is the one I go to, and he usually has the answer. So a lot of times it's just explaining why the data you're looking at looks as it does. Data delivery has certainly become a big value add, and I'll talk a little more about that in a moment, but we have a very wide range of use cases from our clients, and so we offer a wide range of data delivery methods for them. Research ready data. There's a difference in research quality. Research ready is the idea that we're providing clean and complete data with support information, the metadata, splits, dividends, this reference data, where you come to one source to get the data. You spend as little time verifying, as little time preparing it, and the most time using the data. We look at it as we are in business to take away the pain points and the time and effort, which is cost for using this data. And then we offer tools, I'll talk more about those as well, to easily format the data and prepare the data. And finally, the speed by which we can provide the data. The build versus buy decision is a no-brainer. What would take months or longer to build, we can provide in minutes, hours, or days. Now let's get just a little bit into our data offering. At a high level, we offer global equities, global futures and cash indices, spot forex, equity and index options, and daily updates for all of these markets. So first, we'll look first at global equities. We offer global equity data for more than 120 global exchanges in total. Our most popular markets for which we offer equity data are the US, Canada, LSE, and Australia. We're seeing a lot of activity, though, from Hong Kong and from China as well. For every exchange, we offer, our data sets include all listed securities. For example, for US, anything that's listed on exchange, ETF, anything is going to be in the data. For some markets, we also offer off-exchange trading venues, MTFs, for example. As a part of that, a new product that we have put together this year, we're very excited about actually, is our European composite data set. This falls into that sort of gray area in the capability slide, but this idea, we created a composite where you could see trading for all securities listed on European exchanges on all the venues on which they're traded. So if you wanted to see Vodafone trading all across Europe, you can get a single time series with Vodafone on all the exchanges in Europe on which it trades. So we're really excited about this product. And if you want to talk about us, please send us an email and let us know, and we'd be happy to discuss it with you. For all the markets we offer, as I mentioned, we offer the historical stock splits, stock dividends, cash dividends, and spinoffs. And we can offer the Security Master historical mapping data as well if needed. And this data is available tick by tick, of course, trades, level 1 quotes, and for some markets, level 2. For most markets, we also offer pre-built 1-minute trade bars. And for US, we offer, in addition to the level 1 quotes, which is top of book per exchange, we offer national best bid, best offer, which we calculate, and 1-minute pre-built quote bars for US equities. Timestamps are as granular as nanoseconds, basically between milliseconds and nanoseconds, depending on the market. Global futures and cash index data, tick by tick trade data, level 1, and for some markets, level 2 data for more than 80 futures exchanges. This includes data for all active contract months. So if you're looking at some of the short-term interest rate contracts that go out 10 years, we have data going out 10 years. 120 contracts actively traded concurrently. Same with energy markets, for example, crude oil going out, I think it goes at least 5 years, that's 60 contracts. So anything that has any trading activity will be in the data. And data has changed. As Justin said, I've been with the company a long time, seen a lot of changes. And as technology has changed, we've been able to move our timestamp to more granular. We offer milliseconds right now for all global futures data. And then calendar info is an add-on data set to the futures data. If clients need it, we can offer session hours and holidays. So you can see, because the futures data does have overnight trading, day session, or even if they don't call it anymore, they still can show it. And we can show you the historical session hours and holidays. Holidays are certainly very complicated with futures because some of them never actually close for the full day. They just have partial days. So that's all in there. And then trading calendars for futures contracts to see when each contract month starts and ends. And that's futures. So on cash indices, we have data for dozens of global cash indices, tick by tick. The update frequency varies with cash indices from one to another. And over time, we've seen it go from 1 a minute or 4 a minute. I think the S&P used to be 4 a minute, and now I think it's 4 times a second now. And I'm not exactly sure, but they're way more higher frequency now. And the timestamps are currently millisecond. Spot Forex. We have more than 15 years of level 1 quote data history for over 2,000 spot FX pairs. And this includes regular pairs plus crosses plus reverse pairs that show calculated prices. But the main pairs will show actionable quotes provided by over 95 global banks from over 80 international cities. These contributing banks, we call them upper mid-tier in size, and we think of this as sort of the sweet spot for our client base. This is an over-the-counter market. So without a single exchange or venue on which they're traded, whether you're an individual up through an institution, up through the world's largest banks trading hundreds of millions in notional value for every trade, your spreads are going to vary, your quotes are going to vary. So for our main client base, the individuals, the gain capitals, the forex.coms, those quotes are really not going to work so well. And the Deutsche Bank and Bank of America quotes might not either. So the contributing banks in our feed are pretty much in that sweet spot. However, I always tell any customer for any data set to look at sample data, but especially for an over-the-counter market, to make sure that the data works for your use case, look at sample data. Finally, we have index equity and index options. We offer level 1 quote and trade data for all listed US equity and index options, available back to 2020. And I put 3,000 quotes for every trade because anytime I talk about options, I make sure that clients understand if they want quote data, what they're going to get. The quote data set is huge. So that's 3,000 times the size of the trade data set. It's pretty massive. It includes the complete option chain provided for each root symbol. So you get all expirations, all strikes, calls and puts for all of them, including weeklies if they offer them, and any listed option on all of the US exchanges. So that's an overview of our data offering. But as I said before, been much effort in the last few years, in the last decade, has been put into data delivery. So especially in the past decade, as cloud computing has grown, there's been a lot more wider variety of use cases. And so data delivery has become an important value add. Looking at how the data is delivered and what data is delivered. When we provide data, we provide what are called deep history files. These are our source data files, comma delimited files by symbol by day, by contract by symbol by day for futures, and by pair by day for Forex. So if a client wants to just database data and they don't want to use any of our tools that we provide, they just want the data, then we can provide that data in a download historically and overnight each night. From if you're in the cloud in AWS, we can do an S3 to S3 sync very, very fast. If you are out of the cloud, then we can provide this data in an S3 download using the AWS CLI, a very thin client for downloading data similar to an FTP client. And then you can download the data to your local infrastructure. And we do, for some markets, still offer a legacy FTP download. I had mentioned before about a set of tools for making data research ready, for manipulating data and building time series. That is what we call TickWrite. TickWrite can run locally or it can run in the cloud. And in the cloud, we can actually also deliver the data on demand through TickWrite, where the data is in our S3 bucket. And if you are in AWS, you can install TickWrite on an EC2 machine and we have a way of using Storage Gateway where you can access our deep history on our instance in the cloud and pull the data only as needed, keeping a small cache of data. And then you're not paying to store terabytes of data on your instance. So that is something that we came up with a few years ago. It's been very popular. And then Tick API, a RESTful API. And I'll go into a little more detail on each of these. So a little bit more about TickWrite. And TickWrite, keep in mind, is not necessary for using the data. Some of our larger clients choose, just as I said, to download the source files and database them and use queries and their own intelligence there to pull the data out as they need it. But for many of our customers, probably 75% of our customers, TickWrite is a very convenient way to build custom formatted files. And that includes, if you're using futures, building files of continuous contracts. If you're using equities, then you can build time series that are adjusted for stock splits and dividends, and of course, mapped for symbol changes over time. TickWrite also very easily builds time and tick-based bars. So if you do want to look at the data in 1 or 5 minute bars, you can do that super easy. You can look at end tick number bars as well and do all sorts of manipulations. So there are 3 main versions of TickWrite. The first one is TickWrite 7, our installed version, fully featured downloader and time series builder. It gives clients access to the deep history source files, which they would then store locally and then use it. Then TickWrite would access those source files and build custom formatted time series. TickWrite's available for Windows or Linux, and it has a graphical user interface as well as a command line interface. So you can build job files, basically set up parameters for writing out files. You can save those parameters. You can do this from the GUI or from the CLI, and then you can run those from the UI or the CLI. And there's a scheduler built into TickWrite that can automate updates. It can automate running these jobs so that you can pretty much set up TickWrite and you can access it either way. And TickWrite can run as a service in the background, and you can set it up to download your nightly updates and write out data in from these jobs and basically never open TickWrite, and it just has the data ready for you each day. We also have a browser-based version of TickWrite called TickWrite Web, and it's a software as a service that allows for almost all the same features for building time series, custom formatted time series, but you don't store the source files locally. You don't have to install software. You just use the browser. It uses our web service and runs TickWrite and the data on our server. And it can run on any OS. Obviously, it's browser-based, so it can run on Mac. And it allows for in-app purchases. So if you need to create file of data you haven't licensed, you don't have to go to the store and then place another order and then go back. You can just do it, and then it'll check you out as if you're in the store. That data is available for future use, but it'll write out the file for you. And finally, Tick API. As I said, a RESTful API that allows for on-demand programmatic access to the data. We set up an automated billing system. You put a card on file, and it'll charge you monthly for data being used. And if you are using large amounts of data and want to be billed flat rate on an annual basis, we can do that as well.
But thank you so much, Scott. I'm going to launch a quick poll while we're doing some Q&A. Just to ask you if there's any follow-up you'd like, request a meeting, a demo, or sample data. And invite you now to use the Q&A button in the middle of the Zoom interface to ask us any questions. Scott, we've got some questions that people asked before the event. First of all is, do you have NASDAQ and S&P 500?
Yes. So we offer NASDAQ, S&P 500, major indices, cash indices, futures on those indices, options on those indices, and ETFs as well. So the spiders, the Qs, we have those as well. So we have all of those.
Can someone else ask, can you provide end-of-day, weekly, monthly data going back 40 years?
Depending on the market, we do have official EOD data for just about everything. Not everything goes back 40 years. In some cases, in some of the futures, we actually go back further in the tick-by-tick data than we do in the EOD data. But for equities, yeah, we probably go back 40 years in that data.
Same person continues, what separates you from Reuters or Bloomberg in the data space?
Two different things there, actually. So Bloomberg has a very vast offering of data. They both do. But Bloomberg really doesn't focus on historical data. So you can get end-of-day data from Bloomberg. But in terms of historical intraday tick-by-tick data, they probably only have weeks, maybe a few months of data on that. So they don't really compete in that space quite as much. Certainly, Refinitiv Reuters does. They have a large offering of data. Obviously, they have far more markets than we have, but we go back further on most of our markets. For the U.S. equity data, also, all of their data is collected. Obviously, it's Reuters, so they collect their own data. Our U.S. equity data is the official record of trading from the consolidated tape, so it's different data there. That was being the official record. We have a support team that is very responsive. Most of our clients who are institutions, they all, anybody who trades has real-time feeds. Many of them are customers of Reuters and Bloomberg, and they still come to us for historical data.
Thank you, Scott. Someone else asks, is the data filtered?
Yes, the data is filtered, and we actually have a white paper on our website that talks about our filtering. But I will say a few things about filtering. Number one, over the years, we have found that this, and we're talking here about an algorithmic filter of the data. There's filtering that it's done where we have condition codes and the data is in the source files, but TickWrite, for example, by default won't output certain trades because they're deemed to be excluded. They might be informational, they might be out of sequence, things like that. So if you're talking about programmatic filtering, scrubbing of data, that sort of thing, one thing is we've always tried to err on the side of under scrubbing data. We do offer both filtered and unfiltered data for the last 8 or 9 years, but before then, just the filtered data. And we always wanted to err on the side of filtering less so that you were not taking the reality out of the data. We don't want to take the reality out of the data. But at the same time, we are phasing out that filter because as everything has gone electronic, and really it took us some time and analysis over time, but we really found that the filter isn't really doing as much. Back in the day, especially in futures, where you had pit reporters who were typing in trades as they happened, they would fat finger, they would shift, they would put the decimal in the wrong place, they would flip numbers, that sort of thing. And so filtering was far more necessary. So yes, it's filtered, but in terms of going forward, we are filtering out our filter.
Last question I have here is it's a bit of a long question, but in addition to historical pricing data, what do you have for, I think the person asked about globally registered funds?
Okay, so like those would be, so ETFs we do have. If you're talking about mutual funds, we really don't have mutual fund data, but we do have ETF data.
End of the questions and the presentation. Okay. I want to say thank you so much for Scott for presenting and working on this webinar with us today. As always, to learn more about Tick Data, visit tickdata.com, reach out to us at sales@tickdata.com, and look forward to you joining us on the next event. So thank you all. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks so much, everybody. And thanks, Justin. Really appreciate your time, everybody.